call Ian Lees-Galloway.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Ian Lees-Galloway.
I just want to clarify if this is a 5-minute or 10-minute contribution.
Well, the Green Party is the Green Party. It's normally the Green Party takes the first call.
That's right.
The slot.
Yes.
Is the Green Party expecting to?
Galloway can have 10 minutes, sir.
It would be my pleasure, Mr.
There's
Speaker.
your answer.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Labor backs an economy that works for all of us, not just for the privileged few. A country where our kids can hope one day to own their own home, a job that pays well, and security to live a fulfilling life with the people we care about, and a world-class health system that's there for you when you need it.
Okay.
Labor, in short, stands for the Kiwi dream. And it is our mission, when we're in government, to restore the Kiwi dream and security and opportunity for all New Zealanders. It's not just the Labor Party that is the champion of the Kiwi dream. It is the wider Labor movement as well. Working people who have chosen to work together, collectively, through their unions, to get a better deal and a fairer outcome for themselves and for other people working in their industry and across New Zealand. And this is a prime example of the Labor movement at work. The Labor movement striving to ensure that all New Zealanders can realise that Kiwi dream. So I want to acknowledge the PSA and ETU for the work they did, bargaining with their employers, then taking the test case, then sitting down with a centre-right government and getting a positive outcome, not just for the union members, but actually for everybody who works in this sector, and for the people that they care for, and actually leading the way for other work that has to happen in order to provide fair pay and conditions for people working throughout the healthcare system. I think this is a wonderful victory for working people, and it's a demonstration of the important role that unions still hold in the modern New Zealand workplace. Because even during a period of time when the government has changed the law to diminish the role of unions, to make it harder for them to do their job and harder for them to get positive and fair outcomes for their members and for other workers, these unions, the PSA, ETU, supported by the Council of Trade Unions, have been able to achieve a fantastic outcome. And it's good for the industry as well. Denise Roche made a very good point, and that is that this was a bargaining situation. Things were traded, and an absolutely legitimate claim for back pay was foregone by those workers so that they could establish a system that is going to be fair for themselves and for future generations of people working in the home care and community support sector. That is not the outcome you get when you get the sort of the cowboy, no win, no fee lawyers. And it's the outcome you get when employers and the government work with unions who have as much of a vested interest in the long-term survival and success of the industries that they operate in as the employers, as the owners, as the government, as everybody else. It's tripartism at its best, the government, the employers and the workers working together for a positive win-win outcome that is good for everybody. So I want to congratulate everybody involved in getting to this point. Yes, there's been times when there's pressure has had to be applied. Yes, there's been times where people have had to go to court. There's been times where perhaps it's felt more like the parties were on opposite sides of the fence than on the same side, but they worked through it. It took time. It took strong people like Jenny Goodman standing up and being prepared to put themselves in the public view. And eventually, after years and years and years of hard work, they got there. And the fact that they got there under a national government is no mean feat and should be acknowledged. They've done extremely well to get there at this point in time. But what they did is they made sure that the public was on their side and that, frankly, the government of the day, no matter what colour it was, had no option but to work with them and to get the appropriate outcome put into place. So there's an aspect of this legislation that hasn't been spoken about all that much that I think is really important, and it's important in the context of the ongoing issues and the other matters that still need to be addressed. And that is the fact that by virtue of the legislation that we are passing today, the home and community support workers are defined as employees. And that's important because not everybody working in New Zealand is entitled to the rights that we ought to be able to take for granted. So not everybody working in New Zealand is entitled to a minimum wage. Employees are, but contractors are not. Not everybody in New Zealand is entitled to join a union and to bargain collectively. Employees are, but contractors are not. So defining these workers as employees is actually astonishingly important because it provides them with basic rights that actually every worker in New Zealand should be able to take for granted. And I want to acknowledge that before the Transport and Industrial Relations Select Committee right now is David Parker's bill that would provide the right of the minimum wage to all workers in New Zealand. And we also need to start work on matters such as dependent contractors, people who are called contractors but are actually fundamentally employed by one employer. They are employees in all but name and in all but the rights that they get. These are issues that this House urgently needs to address, and this legislation, in a limited way, for these people, makes really important progress. And that's another thing that we should celebrate, and we should use it as a prototype for future work to extend those rights and those privileges to other people working in New Zealand as well. So this is a day to celebrate, and I don't want to hold this legislation up. So I simply want to end by saying that unions are relevant. Unions are still, even under this government, gaining enormous successes for their members and for workers right across New Zealand. And today is a day that we should celebrate unions and that unions should celebrate the work that they are doing.